Recording in progress.
All right, the live stream is active.
Okay. The chair calls to order the March 23rd, 2022 meeting of the Kansas Governmental Ethics Commission. Welcome back, commissioners and staff. In your materials, you have today's agenda and the minutes from the February 23rd meeting. Can anyone identify any corrections that need to be made to either? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes and agenda as written?
So moved.
Thank you, Judge. Do I have a
All right.
second?
I'm live.
Second. Kim?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed say nay. The motion passes. Turning to the agenda. We
Mr.
will
Chair, if you
begin.
wouldn't mind, I just admitted a phone number and we're trying to make, I want to make sure. The phone number that's listed on the screen with a 3166 ending, do you mind identifying yourself?
Hi, Mark. This is Chinitao.
Great, thank you. Just making sure that's for the hearing later on, everyone. So I just wanted to make sure I was admitting someone who should be in the meeting. Thank you. Just making later on admitting stuff.
Okay.
Commissioner Moore, I believe you've got some echo on your end.
Yeah, if we could make sure that we mute ourselves while we are not talking, that would be greatly appreciated. The first item on the agenda is opinion 2022-2. Brett or Mark?
Yes, this opinion is very succinct. Basically, there's been some confusion on behalf of individuals about this particular provision of the statute with regard to funds that get transferred to federally registered party committees and political committees. So the statute basically provides that any funds that are collected and then subject to reporting requirements of the Kansas Campaign Finance Act are not to be in or for campaigns of a federal candidate for federal elective office. And we've outlined basically what the interpretation that Mark has been applying and indicating to people, and we thought other people would be benefited by the fact that this opinion would be out there. It essentially says that those funds that are transferred to a federal party PAC or a political PAC, so long as they're not earmarked for a specific prohibited, something prohibited under the Kansas Campaign Finance Act, that they may be used federally. And that one of those prohibitions is for the candidate of a federal elective office. So that's basically it.
I would move that we promulgate the opinion.
Okay, thank you, John. Any other questions, or do I have a second of the motion to approve?
I would second.
Thank you,
Kyle.
Kyle. Any additional discussion on the opinion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the opinion and the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed say nay. The motion passes.
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is an executive director's report with a legislative update.
For the legislative update, you don't have any materials in your meeting materials today. I just have a very quick note. We had some discussion at the last meeting about the mandatory electronic filing bill. It did pass the House, which we were very excited to have that 90 votes in the House on the floor, had an opportunity for a debate and a good discussion. That bill that was passed by the House then was reconsidered again in the Senate Transparency and Ethics Committee. They again had a very good discussion and did great work on it, sent it back, approved again unanimously. But for a second time this session, the Senate did not choose to put that bill above the line. So despite 90 votes in the House and despite 2 unanimous votes out of committee, that bill will not receive a vote on the Senate side, meaning that our electronic filing requirement is going to die again this session. This means that
because it's passed one house, it can be amended into a conference committee report, can't it?
it could. That is possible.
Is there a bill in conference committee that you could define to maybe get somebody to amend that into the conference committee report?
It is my understanding that there is not the desire of the current Senate to proceed in that fashion.
But they would have to vote on it if it was put in the conference committee report.
If someone would do that, yes, but I don't know that that will happen.
2 senators and 2 House members to agree to that on some conference committee.
There would have to be an applicable bill that would that a senator would be willing to put that into. And I don't, at this time, I don't believe that that exists. Now, I'm not giving up entirely. I am saying that I will continue to work for that effort. But as of today, it appears that Kansas will again remain one of only 7 states in the nation that allows state candidates to file on paper. So going into next year, we will keep working on this. We are very excited about the progress we have made, but that is the legislative update that I have for today. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Commissioner Solbach. The next item on the agenda is we have a good number of civil penalties to note for purposes of the minutes. Mark, do you want to discuss these?
I will. Again, there's no motion required. These civil penalties happen automatically by operation of statute. Just simply by filing late, these automatically receive civil penalties. So I will read through them to provide notice and to read them into the minutes. Arian Davis, 9 days late for 90. Tanya Hudson for 130. Kim Webb for 190. Joshua Luttrell for the maximum 300. Carmen Anelo for 300. Max Halley for 300. Bob Reese for 300, Marsha Reese for 300, Derek Burke for 300. All of these from here on out, I believe, are 300 actually. So Jason Pickert, Hofine Boisinde, Scott Hamblin, Tara Brune, Benjamin Hodge, Makokwa Jones, Matthew Smith, Ryan Spencer, Jeff Underhill, Monty Dibben, Melvin Williams, Taisha Nichols, and those are the candidates who receive civil penalties. The next are party committees and PACs. Largely, again, these are about the January 10th receipts and expenditures report. All of these received the maximum. And that's Timothy Smith for AAWVA, Mike Gibson of Associated General Contractors, Jacob Swisher of Conservative Republicans of Western Joco, Mary Brown for Douglas County Young Dems, Max Sybrandt for Friends of Wyco, FOP Lodge 40, Ben Hodge for Kansas for State and Local Reform, Joseph Elmore for Kansas Black Republican Council, Rick Cohn for Kansas Cannabis Business Association, Jay Noctegal for Kansas Society of Anesthesiologists, John Todd for United Forward, Virginia Graham for Lyon County Republican Women, Adrian Wall for Neosho County Democratic Central Committee, Livonia Ragsdale from the 3rd District Libertarian Party. The next group are late registrations for 2021. Jacob Swisher for Conservative Republicans of Western Joco, Mary Brown, Douglas County Young Dems, Max Sybrandt, Friends of Wyco, FOP Lodge 40, Haley Kotler, Kansans for a Progressive House, Benjamin Hodge, Kansans for State and Local Reform, Joseph Elmore, Kansas Black Republican Council, Jay Noctegal for Kansas Society of Anesthesiologists, John Todd of United Forward, Madison Plachek from KU Young Democrats, Virginia Graham for Lyon County Republican Women, a late amended statement of organization for Benjamin Hodge, Kansans for State and Local Reform, late amended January 10th, 2021 reports is Joseph Elmore for Kansas Black Republican Council, Jay Noctegal for Kansas Society of Anesthesiologists. A late amended October 2020 report is Jay Noctegal from the Kansas Society of Anesthesiologists. He also, that same person has 3 more here for amended July 2020, January 2020, and January 2019 reports, all for the maximum. And the last one is a lobbyist for a late filing of the March 10th lobbyist report, Rachel Schreiber, representing TMX Finance Family for $100, who was 1 day late. I can answer any questions about those civil penalties. Otherwise, they've simply been read into the record and no motion is necessary.
Do any commissioners have questions? Hearing none, moving on, the next item on the agenda is civil penalty waiver requests. And we have 4, and beginning with George Briggs.
The first waiver request is George Arlen Briggs. He's a gubernatorial candidate. He is assessed $70. You do not have anything in front of you today, and that's because this is a request that is actually coming from me. Typically, when I have an admin request for a civil penalty waiver, it's almost always because of a procedural issue. This is actually not that. This is Mr. Briggs disclosed to me a health issue that I have no reason to believe is not accurate, that made it difficult to file his report. And so I would, because of that medical issue, I would recommend waiver of the $70. I can answer any questions about it at this time, but unless there's a specific question about the underlying health issue, I just prefer not to disclose it unless that is relevant to the motion.
Move we waive it.
I would second that.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Kyle. The motion is to waive the penalty with respect to Mr. George Briggs. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion passes.
The next item you have is from a written request for waiver from Julie Burkhart, the chair of the Trust Women PAC. The civil penalty was assessed on Katie Nutter, the treasurer at the time. This PAC was an organization that has not been inactive for quite a while. They have now terminated the PAC. They had moved out of state and simply forgot to file the last report, it appears, based on their assertions in that notice. Given their history of inactivity, I have no opposition to a waiver in this instance. We've never had a civil penalty waiver or civil penalty assessed against this organization.
Got it. Do I have a motion? Questions?
I'll move that the assessment be waived based upon the information provided.
Ken will second.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Ken. Any additional discussion or questions with respect to Julie Burkhart? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion passes.
The next 2 are for Chance Lammer and Jacob Farr. Are either Mr. Lammer or Mr. Farr in the room right now? I don't believe they are. They had indicated that they wanted to be present to discuss the waiver. So we could proceed now if we would like, based on a limited amount of writing that has been provided and some discussion here, or we could proceed with other activity on the agenda and return to this. I'm fine either way.
Do you have a recommendation with respect to the waiver?
I have concerns about some of the issues that they raise in the waiver request, but my recommendation is ultimately going to be to waive both penalties.
Do I have that motion, or do any of the commissioners have questions?
To be clear, Mr. Lammer in his writing did not identify a reason to waive. This is the individual who I believe appeared in person at the February meeting, hoping to discuss the waiver request at that time. So there isn't anything in the writing that has been provided that would support a waiver. My recommendation is based solely on a history of inactivity and the fact that, at least with Mr. Farr, Mr. Farr is an independent lobbyist who does not represent a client. Chance Lammer has a client, the First Responder Advocates of Kansas, but again is inactive, and typically last year Mr. Lammer filed an affidavit and he's filed that now.
And so the amounts at issue are $100 for Mr. Lammer and $150 for Mr. Farr.
Yes.
And just to be clear, were either of these two gentlemen present at our prior meeting?
I believe they both were present at the last meeting. They were hoping to discuss the penalty waiver, but hadn't submitted a request of any kind. They'd also communicated with us that they intended to be here today. I believe that we've sent them the Zoom information to participate, but they do not appear to be here at the moment.
Todd, if you'll move, I'll second.
Well, let me ask a quick question. Mark, how confident are you that they have the Zoom link for today?
I was not the one that sent it to them. Sherry, do you know offhand if you or Jessica sent it to them?
Sherry's muted, so.
Mm-hmm. Sherry, can you hear us? Oh, yes. Sherry confirms that she submitted it through email.
Oh, I got
She just said that in chat.
Got it.
Got it. So we can choose to take no action, or we can take a motion to waive, Mark?
Yes, or it is possible that you could defer to another meeting, but I don't see a reason to do that in this instance. I think we are either waiving or not.
Okay. Do I hear a motion? If not, we will move on.
I'll go ahead and move that we waive them. They're not worth messing with, and if waiving them will mean that we don't hear from them again, I'm for waiving them based upon the executive director's recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, John. Do I have a second? Okay. It is
Second.
not. We do?
I thought somebody did.
I believe Judge Helmer seconded.
Oh, okay. So it has been seconded.
I did, but my connection is dropping, so I'm not always with you.
Okay. It has been seconded. We'll go ahead and take a vote unless there's additional discussion. All in favor of approving the motion to waive with respect to Mr. Lammer and Mr. Farr, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The motion passes. This takes us to the next item on the agenda, where we have 3 public hearings on the agenda, beginning with complaint 715, Cheng-Yi Thao. John Solbach, do you want to do the honors of conducting our hearing today?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Would you like me to go forward with Miss, how do you pronounce your last name? Miss
How?
Thao?
Mhm.
Okay.
May I interject really quick? I do not see why we wouldn't be able to take up the hearings on both 715 and 716 simultaneously. They're both the exact same allegation, and they're also dealing with the exact same organization and individuals. So all the issues and evidence is identical.
Okay.
That makes sense to me. Are you okay with that, Mark?
I am, as long as I see obviously Ms. Tao is here. I'm assuming Mr. Muir is the Sierra Group 01 account, but if he could confirm that he is present. Thank you.
Okay. I'll go ahead and with the hearing, Mr. Chairman. I'm John Solbach, and I've been appointed to be the hearing officer in this matter. Case number complaint 715, Mark Skoglund versus Ms. Thao, and complaint number 716, Mark Skoglund versus James Muir. And I hereby call the hearing to order. Ms. Thao, a summary of the procedures that we're going to follow. You don't have an attorney, is that correct, Ms. Thao?
No, I do not have an attorney.
All right. Each of the parties will be given a chance to open which means that you can summarize the case. The respondent may open either after the complainant's attorney or after the complainant's evidence. Mark Skoglund is the complainant. Our attorney is, or his attorney is Brett Berry. And you'll be given the opportunity to present evidence subject to cross. The respondent's evidence will also be subject to cross. Commission members may ask questions during the proceeding. We're kind of informal. If commissioners wish to interrupt and speak up, I'm not going to rule them out of order. The hearing will be on the record. I assume that someone is recording this, so you need to answer verbally so that it can be heard. After the hearing, the commission will go into executive session to determine its findings. Well, we won't go into executive session. We will determine our findings and issue a appropriate fine if we find that there is a violation in open session. Mr. Berry, would you like to state the appearances for the record?
Certainly. My name is Brett Berry. I'm General Counsel for the Governmental Ethics
Okay,
Commission.
we just need to know why you're here today.
Appearing today with me is Mark Skoglund, and we're Mr. Skoglund's the complainant, and I'm appearing on behalf of the complainant.
And how about the respondent?
My understanding through the Zoom technology is Ms. Tao is here and Mr. Muir are both present through digital internet communication for our meeting.
Okay, is Mr. Muir with us, or is just Ms. Chow?
I'm here. Mr. Muir is here.
Okay. All right.
And John, we also have Ms. Gail Radke, who is a member of our Fresh Vision OP organization, and she's also here too.
Okay. I might ask before we begin that the witnesses be sworn. I'm not going to ask that Mark Skoglund be sworn. He's an attorney. He has an obligation to be candid with the tribunal. We are a tribunal. But Ms. Chow and the others.
May I just ask, is Mr. Skoglund licensed to practice law in Kansas?
He certainly is. He's a licensed attorney, and he is subject to the jurisdiction of the disciplinary administrator, and he has an obligation to be candid with the Ethics Commission. Could you, Judge Helmer, would you do the honors, please?
I will try. I have been buffered and dropped, but I'll try. Who is it that I'm issuing the oath to?
I guess Ms. Muir, are you alone here, or is your two compatriots with you?
This is Mr. Muir. I'm on Zoom. Chinese on Zoom.
Okay.
And one of our witnesses are on Zoom.
Okay, I guess you're swearing Ms. Chow, and Mr. Muir.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you need to
I believe Ms. Radke is a witness as well.
Is Ms. Radke available?
I am here.
Okay. Judge, would you like to swear all three of those people for us?
I can, one at a time. Mr. Muir, if you would raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give in the cause now and hearing be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Thank you, Ms. Tao. Ms. Tao, do you solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give in the cause now and hearing be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And who's the third party?
Gail Radke. Gail Radke.
I'm here.
We've lost the judge.
Bufford again. The name of the third party, please.
Gail Radke.
Radke, if you'd raise your right hand, solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give and the cause now and hearing be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Judge. Mr. Berry, would you like to go forward with your evidence?
Yes, Your Honor, or hearing officer. I assume that there would be a brief opening that would be appropriate.
Yeah, that would be, go ahead with your opening if you would like.
Briefly, the evidence that our Ethics Commission, the agency, has produced demonstrates that Fresh Vision Overland Park has more than one individual that's a member, and that those individuals have participated in express advocacy. And it appears, based on the evidence, that a major purpose of Fresh Vision Overland Park is express advocacy for a specifically identifiable candidate. And as such, they meet the definition of a PAC in KSA 2541 43 K1, and they have obligations as a PAC to file reports and also make a statement pursuant, name both a chairperson and a treasurer, and file a notice of organization with the Secretary of State's office within 10 days thereof. And that's pursuant to 2541-45. And because the evidence indicates that has not happened, they have not met their obligation under statute, and that is the basis of the complaint, which has been filed in complaint number 715 and complaint number 716 against Ms. Tao and Mr. Muir, respectively. That's all that I have for an opening.
Okay. Ms. Chow or Ms. Tao or Ms. Radke or Mr. Muir, do any of you have an opening statement that you'd like to make now, or would you like to reserve your opening statement until after the evidence of the complainant is presented? First, Ms. Radke. Go ahead, Ms. Tao.
Yeah, I'd like to just make a brief opening statement here that who is Fresh Vision OP? We are a bunch of neighbors. We are a grassroots movement. We are a 501c4, as we've indicated and shared information with you. We're just a bunch of neighbors that support causes that allow citizens to maintain a strong quality of life. We have no ties to any political candidates. For us, it's more about ensuring that our neighbors, ourselves, we have a strong quality of life. We're focused on family values, safety in our neighborhoods, environmental responsibility, and so on. So what you had mentioned in your opening case, that we are a PAC, or we should be filing as a PAC, that is not the case. We're a bunch of neighbors just banding together to push forward on some of the social causes that we see that are impacting our neighborhoods. And I'd like to leave it at that to see if James or Ms. Radke may have any additional things to add.
Okay. Mr. Muir or Ms. Radke, do either of you have something to add?
I object to Ms. Radke, as she's not a party.
Okay.
To either complaint.
Okay, Mr. Muir, do you have anything to add? I'll sustain that objection.
Yeah, I will. I'd just like to add that that Fresh Vision OP, we filed for incorporation with the Secretary of State, Kansas, on February 25th, 2021. And we're granted a license to do so. We filed as a nonprofit, not-for-profit. I think is how they say it in Kansas. On April 15th of 2021, we received our employer identification number from the Department of Treasury. On April 15th, 2021, we filed Form 8976, Notice of Intent to Operate under Section 501c4 of the Internal Revenue Code with the Internal Revenue Service. Going through, I can state now or later the federal provisions for what a 501c4 social welfare organization is. We initially had submitted a basically a statement. Do you have that statement that we initially submitted?
Mark, do you have such a statement?
I have it prepared that I can put in the chat whenever so desired.
Okay.
Well, it's kind of important because this really comes down to whether Fresh Vision OP is a PAC or it's a 501c4 social welfare organization. Because a social welfare organization does have the ability, if it wanted to endorse a particular candidate. So when I go into the Kansas statutes, K1 political committee means any combination of two or more individuals or any person other than an individual. Okay, we agree with that.
Mr. Hearing Officer, I'm going to object to this opening statement. It goes beyond commenting on what the evidence is and is improper argument.
Okay. You might confine your opening statement to a summary of the evidence that we're going to be hearing.
Okay, so the summary of the evidence is under Kansas law, we're not a PAC. Under federal law, we're a 501c4 social welfare organization functioning in compliance with the federal statutes going through.
Okay.
That's in summary what it is.
Okay.
So it's I guess it's your consideration of whether we're a PAC or not.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you, if you claim us to be a PAC, we're just going to shut down.
Okay. Just a second. We're now in opening statements, and you've made an opening statement. Ms. Tao has made an opening statement. But now, when we take evidence, that we're an administrative agency, we genuflect to the rules of evidence, but we're not bound by them. This is much more informal than that. Oftentimes, we take evidence as a proffer, and if neither of you will object, I'll just ask Mr. Berry to make a proffer of what his evidence would be if he were to call various and sundry witnesses to present evidence in this hearing. Do either of you object to his making a proffer?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
Mr. Berry, go ahead with the proffer of the evidence that you would provide if you called your witnesses to testify.
Mr. Hearing Officer, I object to making a proffer at this time. I have a witness, and I'd like to present the evidence and exhibits through the witness.
All right. Please proceed.
Okay. At this time, the Ethics Commission would call Mark Skoglund. Mr. Skoglund, you've already, as noted by the hearing officer, have an obligation to be forthright with this at this hearing. So you weren't technically put under oath, but do you have that obligation? Do you understand that?
I do understand.
Okay. And you are the director for the Governmental Ethics Commission?
That is correct.
In the course of your employment with the Ethics Commission, did you become aware of Fresh Vision OP?
Yes, it was brought to my attention by multiple people.
Okay. And at this time, can you summarize your familiarity with Fresh Vision OP and why they came to your attention?
Yes, so shortly before the 2021 primary, it was brought to my attention that an organization operating under the name Fresh Vision OP had sent out mailers advocating for a specific candidate for office, and that This was an organization that was not registered as a PAC under the Kansas Campaign Finance Act. At that time, we initiated an investigation to determine the full scope of the organization and who was in charge of the organization, ultimately resulting in the complaints that we are handling today.
Okay. And based upon the investigation, did you adduce what this express advocacy was?
Yes, so they were aware of 3 instances of conduct that the organization engaged in, but it may be best at this time to briefly mention the statutes and regulation that just to provide a framework for evaluating this question. The first is, as was previously discussed, both of these are in the materials, is 254143K1, the definition of a political committee. In particular, drawing attention to the fact that an organization of 2 or more people with a major purpose, not necessarily a primary purpose, but a major purpose to expressly advocate for the nomination, election, or defeat of a candidate for state or local office. The second is the regulation, which is also in the materials, 1921-3, which is a regulation that specifies 6 different criteria that are helpful to identify when an organization is operating as a PAC. It's our assertion in filing this complaint that Fresh Vision OP meets the definition of a political committee through interpretation of the statute and the regulation. Now, the discussion, so the question that was just posed to me was essentially, what activity were we aware of the organization engaging in? At this time, we are aware of 3 instances of activity by the organization. The first instance is a mailer that was sent out, and here I am referencing Exhibit 1, which is a mailer that was sent by Fresh Vision OP and includes a paid for attribution specifying Ms. Tao as the treasurer. And Brett, I don't know if this would be a time to introduce this or if you want me to continue talking about it without including the link.
Okay. You've identified Exhibit 1 for the record. At this time, I would just go ahead and move to admit Exhibit 1.
What is Exhibit 1 again?
It's a mailer that was sent out by Fresh Vision OP.
Okay. I don't seem to have that in my materials.
Okay. It's not in the materials. It's going to be in the chat, and there will be a link to that.
Okay.
So if it's omitted, then we'll go ahead and disclose the link so that can be examined by.
Is there any objection to it being admitted from the commission or the parties?
I object because I don't know what it is.
Who was that?
This is Mr. Muir.
Okay, could you explain to Mr. Muir what that is, Mark?
Yes, there were in discussions with Ms. Tao, we asked for the mailers that were sent by the organization. Ms. Tao produced 2 mailers. This is the first of those 2 mailers. I intend to introduce both.
Does that satisfy you, Mr. Muir?
Once again, I don't know what the mailer is.
Well, I think that you should know, and I'm going to go ahead and admit it.
I am including the link in the chat, as this is the first time that we are introducing anything. I'll note that these are Dropbox links. When you click on the link, it will pop up something asking you to log in. You don't have to, simply click the X in the corner, and you'll be able to see the document. This first mailer is a document that was sent out by the Fresh Vision OP organization. This is a proof that was produced to me by Ms. Tao. This includes express advocacy. Specifically, it says at the top, vote Dr. Faris Farasati for mayor. That is express advocacy in the meaning by definition in the Kansas Campaign Finance Act, and therefore this mailer does include express advocacy. I'm also aware, therefore, this mailer that was sent does constitute express advocacy, is express advocacy for a candidate for office subject to the Kansas Campaign Finance Act. The second mailer that was provided is an issue mailer that was sent out as well, and I can provide that much in the way that the first was just provided, if introduced.
Is Mr. Berry?
Yes, Exhibit 2 is another mailer that was provided in the same way as the first one, basically from the respondent, Ms. Tao, and I'd move at this time for its admission.
Is there an objection to admission of this second mailer? It will be admitted.
No, I don't, but I'm glad they identified this one a little bit more directly than the first one.
Okay, it will be admitted into evidence.
Mr. Skoglund, if you'd like to talk about this Exhibit 2.
Yes, Exhibit 2 is an issue mailer. It was, the proof indicates that a date of July 29th, 2021. You'll see that it is also a two-sided mailer, much like Exhibit 1. However, this mailer is just issue advocacy. There is not express advocacy contained in this mailer. It is simply discussions about the issues that are supported by Fresh Vision OP as an organization. It would be this mailer does not constitute express advocacy and does not support that if this were the conduct that the entity, the only conduct the entity engaged in, this would not be a PAC. So the second mailer is solely issue advocacy. The third activity by the organization was a website, freshvisionop.org. We, as part of the investigation, took a cache of the page as it existed on August 2nd, 2021. So immediately after, right before the primary and after it was, immediately after the primary and right before the primary and right after the issue was reported to us, after the mailer, the first mailer that we were aware of, Exhibit 1, was sent. So there is a cache of that page that I intend to present as well. The home, so Brett, there are two exhibits here, 7 and 8.
Okay. Yep.
And that is the home page and the issues page.
These are printouts of web pages from the Fresh Vision OP website, and one contains who they are, a mission statement and a vision statement, and the other one is from a page that has issues as well as a comparison of candidates for mayor of Overland Park. At this time, I would move to enter into evidence what's been marked as Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2 for identification.
Is there any objection to entering this exhibit into evidence?
If I can clarify, it's Exhibit 7 and 8, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's correct.
Seeing none, they both will be admitted.
So the next link that I have just put in the chat is the home page. I'll discuss that first. They've both been admitted, but the home page cache, you see if you scroll down, includes the same activity that was on the Express Advocacy mailer. Specifically, it says, Fresh Vision endorses Dr. Faris Farasati for mayor on August 3rd. The statement Farasati for mayor constitutes express advocacy. You also have Dr. Farasati is your advocate for a number of issues along the bottom: safety in our neighborhoods, responsible development, and fiscal responsibility. Above that, you do have other content that is essentially discussing what type of things that the organization supports. But the bottom half of the homepage is devoted to this advocacy for Dr. Farasati, and specifically does include express advocacy. The issues page, which is the second link, if I put that in the chat yet. The issues page, and again, this is a cache from August 2nd, 2021. Includes the same content that you see on the back of the Express Advocacy mailer, where they're comparing 4 candidates. and clearly supporting one candidate over the others. I would say that this page, the issues page, does not include express advocacy. It simply has, even though the intention is obviously to support one particular candidate, the content itself does not include express advocacy phrases. Again, this is only one subpage of the website. The homepage did include express advocacy at the time. But you can tell from the issues page, there are 6 identified things on top that they claim are issues. And you have 4 candidates for mayor that they clearly support Dr. Farasati between those. Based upon our awareness of that conduct, it's our understanding that those 3 items, the 2 mailers and the website, constitute 2 of which include express advocacy. Content that provided enough support to support the belief that this organization clearly had a major purpose to advocate for and expressly advocate for a particular candidate for office, which would be sufficient to qualify them as a political action committee and must register accordingly under the Kansas Campaign Finance Act.
Mr. Skoglund, does the office for which Dr. Farasati was running, is that Overland Park Mayor?
It was the mayoral office that is subject to our to the Kansas Campaign Finance Act, meaning that he would be a candidate for local office under the definition in 254143.
Thank you. That was what I was asking about.
The charge here is that they failed to file a report. Do we have any evidence of their failure to file the report? Mr. Berry?
Mr. Skoglund, I think can answer that in testimony if you'll allow me to proceed.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Skoglund, what report is in question based upon the alleged violation in the count or in the complaints?
The organization is required to file a registration statement. They also are going to be required, once they register, to file the requisite report for that time period. Since the conduct that we're aware of and are discussing occurred around a primary, the issue and the only issue we're discussing here is whether or not the organization qualifies as a political action committee or a political committee subject to the Kansas Campaign Finance Act. At this time, they have not filed a statement of organization or registration statement. I don't believe the respondent would dispute that either.
So is it your position that should the commission find that Fresh Vision OP is in fact a PAC as defined under the Campaign Finance Act, they would be subject to filing the reports required in both KSA 4145 and KSA 254145 and 254158 or 48, sorry.
Yes, 25.
I can restate that if you need me to.
No, 254145 and 254148 would both apply, and the reports that are required under those statutes would be required to be submitted by the organization. They would be free to terminate as a PAC after that time, assuming that they aren't engaged in further PAC activity.
Okay. And given the statutes that are involved and your education and experience as an attorney, as well as being the executive director of the Kansas Governmental Ethics Commission, have you reached an opinion as to whether Fresh Vision OP is a PAC?
Yes, based upon the determination of the evaluating the statute, specifically noting that a major purpose of the organization, in order to be a PAC, a major purpose of the organization must be express advocacy, which by my assessment of this particular situation appears to be the case. However, there is also that regulation 1921-3 regarding a political committee, and there are 6 factors that are typically discussed when evaluating whether an entity must file as a PAC. The first is the intent of the person or persons. I believe intention is typically derived best from actions. The actions here include express advocacy. It is possible that the only way otherwise to evaluate intention would be to determine whether or not the individuals in question were intending to solely act as a non-political entity, or if they were filing as a particular type of organization in order to avoid the Kansas Campaign Finance Act. I don't necessarily have any reason to believe that any of that happened. Also, all that matters today is basing intention on the actions that were taken by the organization. The second is the amount of time devoted to the support or opposition of one or more candidates for state office or local office in this particular instance. The amount of time that was divided, we have 3 instances of known activity by the organization. Of those, both the homepage and the first mailer would indicate a substantial amount of time that has been devoted to that purpose. I'm actually unaware of how many people received the second mailer, the issue mailer, or how broadly that was sent. The third is the amount of time devoted to the support or opposition of any other PAC or party committee. This is irrelevant in this instance because that is not the conduct that Fresh Vision engaged in. The fourth and fifth are the amount of contributions and expenditures made to support a political candidate. And here this would be, there were expenditures made substantial enough to support a mailer being sent to a wide variety of individuals. The sixth, is the importance to any candidate for the activities. I don't know how important Dr. Farasati believed that this was to his campaign, nor do I know whether or not other candidates believed that this was detrimental to their campaign. I think that the sixth factor typically is a more minor factor than the others anyway, but we have no awareness of how important this particularly was. So based upon the evaluation of that regulation, it's clear to me that my assessment of the situation was that the intention of the entity was to, in part, or at least have a major purpose, to advocate for a candidate for office, which included a dedication of time in order to proceed in that way. And they also made expenditures for that candidate as well.
At this, strike that. With regard to the tax exception or filing status as a 501c4 corporation or organization, rather, does that have any relevance in regard to the Kansas Campaign Finance Act?
It does not. The tax filing status for the IRS regarding when an entity files as a 501c3, C4, 527 organization, or whatever filing status they choose to file as, is irrelevant for the Kansas Campaign Finance Act. What matters is whether the entity that exists is adequately described and defined by the definition of a political committee in 4143 K2 or K1, I believe. Whether or not it's possible that they are abiding by all federal laws regarding a social welfare group. That's not the question before the commission today. The question is solely, does the Kansas Campaign Finance Act obligate them to register as a political action committee? And does their activity constitute a political committee?
Is there anything that you're aware of that would indicate that being a PAC subject to the Kansas Campaign Finance Act and also being a 501c4 tax exempt organization are mutually exclusive?
No, it's possible that an organization that has chosen to file in any particular way at the federal level because of their actual activity may be subject to registration as a PAC at the state level.
And in regard to the respondents today, Ms. Tao, with respect to complaint number 715 and Mr. Muir in regard to complaint number 716, how do we know that those two respondents are part of Fresh Vision OP?
So first, with just specific reference to Ms. Tao, Ms. Tao was specifically identified in the mailers as the treasurer of the organization. Mr. Muir, we discovered through, we garnered information from the website registrant and determined that the website was registered to Sherry Muir, and after some discussion, ultimately determined and received information from Ms. Tao indicating that the president of Fresh Vision OP is listed as Mr. Muir. And so the two individuals who would be subject to being required to submit a statement of organization would be Mr. Muir and Ms. Tao.
Mr. Skoglund, is there anything that you would like to add to your testimony at this time that I may have neglected to ask?
No.
Okay. And at this time, I would invite any of the hearing officer or commissioners, if they have questions, I would tender the witness.
We first of all need to give Ms. Tao and Mr. Muir an opportunity to cross.
Certainly.
Ms. Tao, do you have any cross-examination for Mr. Skoglund?
Actually, could we bring up the response that James and I had shared with Mr. Skoglund?
You may cross-examine Mr. Skoglund based upon what he has testified to. If you wish to bring up something else, that'll be later in the hearing when you get that chance to offer your evidence.
Mr. Hearing Officer?
Yes.
Since the document was submitted to me and provided to the commission during the probable cause determination, I'm happy to provide the foundation for the document and introduce it in the same way that we introduced the other exhibits.
Mr. Berry?
I have no objection if this witness introduces the probable cause determination information.
Okay, let's proceed with the cross-examination. And if you wish to offer something into evidence, you may do so when at the time that you present your evidence. Do you have any? Cross-examination are questions of Mr. Skoglund within the scope of the testimony that he has given.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
First, I appreciate you introducing that piece into evidence. I would have had an assumption that everybody would have had it already. My question is just going to be focused on your investigation of the activities. Besides looking at the website and seeing two other mailers that went out, had you or anybody in your office investigated any other activities that Fresh Vision OP had conducted?
No.
So Fresh Vision OP could have been, its major focus could have been outside of this election, but you wouldn't know because you haven't done any investigation of that fact?
I am unaware of other conduct by Fresh Vision other than the electoral activity and the second mailer that we discussed, the issue mailer.
Your entire investigation of Fresh Vision OP to determine whether they were a PAC or not was just a couple mailers that were given to you and a look at their website.
Yes.
When you investigated the website.
I apologize if I could clarify. I don't want to mislead. We also received information from the website registrant regarding who registered the website. I don't believe that issue is in.
No, that's not. No,
is not being discussed, but I don't want to mislead you that we did not do other activity.
Okay. So when you investigated the website, you saw there was a vision statement?
Yes.
A mission statement?
Yes.
Neither of those were advocating for any political candidates?
That is correct.
You saw that on the website, certain things they stood for: integrity, transparency, fiscal responsibility, family values, safety in neighborhoods, environmental responsibility. Are any of those advocating for a candidate?
They're not.
They believe in advocating for no chip seal, and chip seal, for people who don't know that, that's when they simply put rock on the pavement and they have cars and trucks drive that into the road. They advocate for Highway 69 not becoming a toll road, that there's no tax giveaways, that they support law enforcement, they support safe neighborhoods.
Mr. Hearing
and
Officer, I'm
responsible
objecting. I
development.
don't hear a question.
You need to ask a question of Mr. Skoglund, Mr. Muir.
Did you investigate any of those areas?
We are aware that that there are portions of the website where there are issues that are identified that do not lead anywhere.
Okay, so your contention is Fresh Vision OP is a PAC because a major portion of what they do was advocacy for a single candidate.
A little bit of a language correction here is that based upon the activity, the electoral activity, it was my assertion and my assessment that the express advocacy conducted by the organization was sufficient to find that there was a major purpose of the organization to advocate for a candidate for office.
Okay, but you did that without investigating any of these other areas that they advocate for or stand for. Is that
I saw
correct?
no evidence of other activity by the organization.
Okay. But once again, you did not try and delve in greater than looking at those pieces.
Based upon searches, we were unable to find other activity by the group.
So you didn't choose to interview anybody associated with the organization before you did this filing to make a determination of whether that actually was the major purpose of Fresh Vision OP.
At any point between the filing of the complaint and today, either you or Ms. Tao could have reached out to us to provide more information about other activity by the group. However, even in the probable cause statement, it does not identify actual activity by the organization.
Okay. Do you or Ms. Tao have further questions of Mr. Skoglund?
No.
Okay. Are there questions from the commission?
I have a question, John, of Mark. Mark, is the standard that we are applying whether express advocacy for an identifiable candidate is a major purpose or the major purpose?
The statute says a major purpose.
So you can have
Sarah,
more.
can you get me back in here?
I'll wait for John. John, you're still in.
I don't have everybody on my screen. There we go. Okay.
So a PAC or an entity can have more than one major purpose. And your position is that a major purpose of Fresh Vision OP was express advocacy for an identified candidate.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there other questions from the commission? Okay. You have already provided your opening statement. Ms. Chow or Mr. Muir, would you like to go forward with your evidence, your witnesses?
Yes. Do you want to go first, Chinni, or you want me to?
Why don't you, could we bring up the document in terms of what we submitted to Mr. Skoglund when he initially reached out to us?
If that's part of your evidence, you may.
Is that what just popped up?
I've placed the item in chat.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll let my neighbor and friend, Mr. Muir, address this piece of it.
Okay, Mr. Muir.
Okay. So this was formed to be a 501c4 social welfare organization. So basically, this is just outlining that we created it and we filed with the IRS as we were supposed to. Going through, we filed as a nonprofit in the state of Kansas, and a 501c4 social welfare organization is organized basically to promote the social welfare of a community. So when we look at our community where we sit, We sit in a area of Overland Park. For those of you who might not be familiar with this, we actually live across from the Overland Park Arboretum. This social welfare organization became into existence, and it is our major function of what's happening around our neighborhoods. So the Overland Park Arboretum has now become what will be an event center, where they will be performing concerts, outdoor weddings, having events. This is a multi-million-dollar improvement function that they consider it to be. Right now, they're building a parking lot that basically our neighborhood will now look over a parking lot as opposed to the Arboretum. The Arboretum, when they put up this parking lot, has removed a considerable amount of trees.
Mr. Muir,
Yes.
We need to concentrate on presenting your evidence. You're making arguments. I'm not sure where they're going, but
Because the argument right here is whether a major function.
We're not at the point where you can make an argument. That'll be at the closing. At this point, I want you to get before the commission the evidence that you have in defense of this complaint. And you can do that through documents if you would like. You can do it through testimony of witnesses.
Okay, I think the document that's just been provided is going to outline our position of whether we're a PAC or not. Okay. In the closing, then I will focus on what a major means going through and whether we fall under that category or not.
That would be for closing. Right now, if you have witnesses to testify, call those witnesses to testify.
Okay, so am I being allowed to testify too?
You may.
Okay, so my testimony is simply our major purpose and almost exclusive purpose is the social welfare of the neighborhoods and community around which we live going through. It is not to support a political candidate. I don't care if it's a Republican, a Democrat, or a Libertarian. If we are going to look at candidates, we are going to look at the candidates that want to improve the social welfare of the people basically in South Overland Park going through. I'll let Chinny express on that and the other witness at doing that. And then I'll just in closing give you the other information.
Okay. Ms. Chow, do you have any testimony you'd like to present to the commission?
Mr. Hearing Officer, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I believe that the exhibit that Mr. Muir was testifying about has yet to be admitted. Does he intend to offer it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there objection to that document being admitted?
No.
The document will be admitted as part of his evidence. Ms. Chow.
So here's my testimony. And when we originally came together as neighbors, as James mentioned, a lot of what we saw that was going on at the Arboretum was concerning to us as neighbors in terms of safety, environmental impact, and just overall quality of life. We have come together on social issues of this nature. We are not a PAC. When you look at a 501c4, it says that you cannot have any political activity beyond 49%. And we are, let me tell you, in terms of transparency, we are a bunch of neighbors concerned about what's going in our neighborhoods. It comes down to chip seal. We're concerned about chip seal being put in our neighborhood. We're concerned about the safety of our roads, the roundabouts that are put in that may potentially affect some of the farmers in the area. Those are just a few of the issues that we focus on. Advocating and endorsing, essentially just endorsing a candidate is not more than 49% of what we do. We spend a majority of our time focused on these quality of life issues that are important to us as neighbors. And I'd like to turn it over to one of our members, Gail Radke, who has been a member of Overland Park for well over 30, 40 years, and then she can give her testimony.
Okay, let me interrupt here just briefly and ask if Mr. Berry has any cross-examination of you or Mr. Muir.
I do not.
Okay, Ms. Radke.
Hello, everyone. I have been living in Johnson County for over 35 years, my husband for over 50. I became involved when Overland Park wanted to put in an amphitheater, and all of the neighbors were very upset. They didn't know what to do. We got together, I had a meeting. Everything that you all have been saying is kind of over my head about all these rules and regulations. We are interested in we came together as a neighborhood organization to try to protect the quality of life because we did not agree with what was happening. My first venture into all of this was to go to one of the first time I'd been to an Overland Park City Council meeting, and I was astounded at how things were just kind of roll downhill. I was friends with Margaret Cundiff, the lady that owned the Overland Park Arboretum property. She was promised by Overland Park to keep it in a pristine condition to protect the environment, which is something that we all are concerned about. And that is not happening. They are allowing thousands of trees to be just bulldozed down. And when you think about one tree cleans up 45 pounds of CO2 every day, it's kind of sad, especially with the high density and all the traffic that is around here. And I don't want to belabor all of this point. I'm trying to get across to you that we were looking for information. It was hard to get. When the councilmen take their votes, it's not published. So I went around and asked neighbors what they were concerned about. They told me it had to do with quality of life, community safety, and the fiscal responsibility, stop high density. And that's really what our main concern is. And we put out that flyer that expressed all that, and we got more response from people saying, well, what do we have to do? How, it's just pretty upsetting. Over the past 10 years, several $100 million has been given back to developers for the sales tax of their materials. Yet the people in Overland Park, in this area of Overland Park, have to pay high taxes and put in a toll road. So, I mean, this is kind of crazy as far as I'm concerned, but what the heck do I know? I've only been around 76 years. So we are not a PAC. We are a community organization. And that's all I can say. We are very concerned, and we want to be able to live having a quality of life. And go ahead.
Mr. Berry, do you have any cross-examination of Ms. Radke?
No.
Are there questions from the commission of any of these three folks that have presented evidence on behalf of the respondent?
John, I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Todd.
First of all, I would like to address Mr. Muir. Your position with Fresh Vision OP was that of president. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And in Exhibit 1 that was admitted by Mr. or through Mr. Skoglund, do you acknowledge that endorses a political candidate?
Does that exhibit right there? Yeah, I would say when it says Fresh Vision endorses Dr. Faris Farasadi for mayor, yeah.
Okay.
It does.
Okay. And on Exhibit 1, did you endorse any candidate other than Mr. Farasadi?
Okay, I'm looking at Exhibit 1. Your last question was the website, is that correct?
No, on Exhibit 1, do you endorse a candidate other than Mr. Farasadi?
No, it does a comparison of candidates.
Okay. And then if Exhibit 7 was from your website, and I think it says that you unequivocally endorse Mr. Farasati for mayor, true?
That's correct. And that's what I thought you were referring to the first time.
Okay. But in Exhibit 7, do you endorse unequivocally or otherwise any candidate other than Mr. Farasati?
Not on that page of the website.
On any page of the website?
I think there was another page of the website that was Exhibit 8 that was doing the comparison of the candidates.
But in terms of endorsing or advocating for a particular political candidate,
The only political candidate that received any endorsement was Dr. Farasati.
At any time?
Within these mailers. I'm going to tell you, when we spoke directly to people, we endorsed Jeff Long for, I won't say endorsed, we compared and contrasted him with Chris Newland in that race. There was some other ones that were talked about of what the positions were and do they align with people.
Let me ask it differently. In any of the material that you've published through Fresh Vision OP, have you endorsed and advocated for a political candidate other than Mr. Farasati?
Well, Mr. Mosier.
No, we have not.
Exhibit 1, he was running for city council. So basically putting him in there was an endorsement of him too, going through.
All right. Is there a difference in your mind, Mr. Muir, between advocacy and endorsement?
Yes.
Okay, what's the difference?
And when we're advocating for somebody, we're aligning ourselves with those people. So I'll just take it as a news outlet. News outlets they're not advocates for the candidate, but they do endorse candidates. So the Kansas City Star will not advocate for somebody in the next gubernatorial election in Kansas, but they will endorse somebody. So there's a definite difference between the two.
Okay. Now, there was someone answered one of the questions that I posed to you, Mr. Muir. Was that Ms. Tao?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe your question was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe your question was, did we send out additional mailers endorsing other candidates? And that's where I wanted to correct it and say, no, that is not what we do.
Okay.
That is not what we do a majority of the time.
Okay.
We talk about the candidates, but we have not.
And that brings me to a question that I had for you when you were speaking earlier, and we appreciate the information you passed along, but you said that the endorsement work that you do for political candidates is less than 49% of your overall work.
The political campaigns where we advocate for candidates where we think represent our values is less than 49% of what we do.
Okay. What percent is it?
It is less than 49%. And to be honest with you, we've got so many activities that I would say it is less than 15%.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
And what Gail had talked to you or to the entire board here committee is the work that we did as, especially with the Arboretum. It is a bunch of neighbors. They're meeting at my house. We're talking about the issues. We're not advocating and endorsing candidates more than 49% of the time.
Do either you, Ms. Tao, or Mr. Muir have any documentary evidence that you can share with the commission today that shows the work that you've talked about that does not involve political candidacy?
Miss Gail Radke just shared with you her testimony. She's one of our members.
I understand. I'm asking if you have documentary evidence, and then this is my last question.
Okay. No, because
If I could interrupt here, the documentary evidence would be for the things that I had said and other members of the organization at these particular meetings in
I
Overland
object
Park.
to the witness addressing the commission. This was not directed to her.
okay, so let me, I'm fine with that. Most of the work we do is face-to-face, talking with people that are, I want to say members of our community. Now that is really more people in this very southern part of Overland Park, Kansas. So it is discussing with them. And so that's hard to give you any physical evidence of that. It's face-to-face talking with people in the subdivision. Are you aware of that they want to make Highway 69 a toll road? Are you aware of what they're doing over at the Arboretum? The last 30 days, are you aware that they're going to start using explosives over there to blow up rock? So the vast majority of ours, because we don't raise much money. I mean, maybe a couple $1,000s is all that we've raised in doing this. It really is designed for us to be able to talk directly with members of our community and then put stuff up on it, let them really know more about the website. It's a social media thing so that they can go to when we learn something that it goes out. So do I have documents that, I talked to my next door neighbor for 30 minutes about things that are going on? No. Do we have do I have real evidence of that, we had meetings? Well, I was on, I think it was News 9 in relation to the Arboretum and what was going on there. So, do I have a recording of that? No. They put it on the television and we were there, and that was meeting. We've had meetings where Chris Newland has been at one of our neighborhood meetings and addressed them in regards to the Arboretum.
Mr. Hearing Officer, I'm going to object. You asked, the question basically was, did you have documentary evidence of these other activities? The answer has been no. The other portion of the testimony being provided is non-responsive to the question.
Mr. Todd, do you have anything else?
I have no other questions. Thank you.
Did he respond? Did he answer your question well enough?
I believe he answered my question.
Okay. Are there questions from other commissioners? Okay. If not, we will go to closing. And how much time do you need to close, Mr. Berry?
I did have some rebuttal evidence.
Okay, please proceed with your rebuttal evidence.
Okay, I would recall Mr. Skoglund at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Skoglund, there was testimony by both Mr. Muir and Ms. Tao in regard to the website and the issues that Fresh Vision OP has. Did you look at the hyperlinks on the website in regard to chip seal in our neighborhoods, tax giveaways, Highway 69 tolls, prefabricated home proposal, high density luxury apartments, hazard pay for first responders?
Yes, I did. I have I have an exhibit, which is marked Exhibit 3, that includes the source code for the website on August 2nd, 2021, that I could, if there's no objection, introducing, could proceed with sharing and discussing.
I would offer Exhibit 3.
Is there objection to admitting Exhibit 3? Seeing none, it will be admitted.
Okay.
Exhibit 3 is now in chat. It is an excerpt from the source code from the website as it existed on August 2nd, 2021, immediately before the primary. You'll see that when there are 6 issues that are identified on the website, These 6 issues are chip seal, tax giveaways, Highway 69 tolls, prefabricated homes proposal, high density luxury apartments, and hazard pay for first responders. The highlighted portion of that is the URL that you would go to if you clicked on those links. So if you clicked on tax giveaways, it would send you to tax giveaway, http:// giveaways. It's not a website. Nothing has been built for that. At the time of the primary, these links went nowhere. In fact, the last one, hazard pay for first responders, actually goes to another non-page for high density luxury apartments. It's my understanding that at this time, chip seal does have a subpage, but I believe even now those 5 links, the other 5 links, do not go anywhere. This seems to indicate that the issues that the organization advocates for, there was no time spent developing the portion of their website that shows these issues. So these links are all dead links that were essentially put together, and then the links actually go nowhere.
May I provide a response to that?
Wait until Mr. Berry is finished with his examination, then you can cross.
Okay. There was some testimony about, strike that. With regard to Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2, those mailers, do you have any knowledge, either from the respondents or from other sources, that would allow you to know how much the mailers actually cost?
Apologize, I was muted. No, I don't know how much the mailers cost.
Okay. I have no further questions of Mr. Skoglund at this time.
Ms. Chow, you may cross-examination. You may cross-examine if you'd like. Mr. Skoglund.
I would like to provide a response about the website.
Okay.
In terms of the website.
If you have rebuttal evidence, you can give that. Do you have any cross-examination of Mr. Skoglund based upon his testimony in this rebuttal testimony?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, Mr. Muir, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are there questions from the commission? Okay. If you have rebuttal, please proceed, Ms. Chow.
May I make my response?
Yes. It's your opportunity to present rebuttal evidence to his only to rebut what it is that Mr. Skoglund testified to in the rebuttal evidence.
Yes. So he had made a comment that the sites went to absolutely nowhere. And I wanted to make a comment that at that time we were working with a website designer, and that website designer had to be fired. So that is the reason why. Our intent was to go back and make sure that we could add that information so that the neighbors that go to our website would be able to access the information.
Okay.
So it was not, so my point is, it was not designed to the way that he may infer that it was. No, we had issues with our website designer.
Mr. Muir, do you have any rebuttal?
No, I'll just keep everything in my closing statement.
Okay. Are there questions from the commission? Oh, well, I guess I should say, Mr. Berry, do you have any cross-examination?
No.
Okay. Are there questions from the commission? Okay. How much time do you need for closing, Mr. Berry?
Oh, I think 5 minutes would be sufficient.
Okay. Do you want to divide your 5 minutes so that you do 2.5 before they speak and 2.5 afterwards?
How about 4 and 1?
Okay. Please proceed with your closing, your first 4 minutes of closing.
Okay. The matter before you today has evidence introduced that there was express advocacy that was made by Fresh Vision OP, both through Exhibit One, which was a mailer that went out, and also through their webpage. The express advocacy was made upon a candidate for local office, as that term is defined under the Kansas Campaign Finance Act. And so this falls within the jurisdiction of the act. There is more than one individual in membership in Fresh Vision OP. So that would meet the definition of a PAC, so long as the express advocacy is a major purpose of the group. And at this time, we show that of the 3 items that we have introduced, 2 of those items have express advocacy. There are other issues that were addressed in a separate mailer, Exhibit 2, as well as the itemization of issues on Exhibit 8. However, beyond them naming them as issues, I don't see much evidence at all that anything was done about it. There's testimony that one of the members went to the Overland Park City Council meeting. We have the 2 flyers. There was talk among the neighbors, and the evidence indicates that there was a couple $1,000s that was raised in total. We don't have any specific evidence as to how much mailers cost, but I would vouchsafe that they were a substantial amount of the $2,000 or a couple $1,000s that Mr. Muir indicated that the group has raised. Under the evidence that the commission has before it, I respectfully submit that there's really no way to say that the express advocacy was not a major purpose. Under Mr. Schornhorst's test or questioning of Mr. Muir, it's clear that, Mr. Skoglund, the interpretation of the statute indicates that it's a major purpose, not the major purpose, indicating the article before major purpose indicates that there would be a possibility of more than one. And I submit that even if these other issues are for a major purpose, that express advocacy also is one of those as well. And I would submit that the reason that perhaps the testimony of Ms. Chow indicates that under 49% of their activity would be express advocacy is because if it was more than that, they would risk their tax exempt status as a 501c4. The evidence just does not show that they've spent money on other issues other than perhaps the website, and just talking about it and maybe attending a city council meeting and having concerns about the arboretum and chip and seal just don't demonstrate those to be as significant as where their money was spent, which was in 2 of 3 instances on express advocacy. And if they are required to file, as the statute indicates in KSA 214152, they have the obligation to file a notice to the Secretary of State of a treasurer, and they also have the requirement to file campaign finance reports. They've spent money for express advocacy, and the Kansas Campaign Finance Act makes that something that should be public information. And that has not occurred. Respectfully submit that the violation in the case of both Mr. Muir and Ms. Tao is appropriate and has been shown by clear and convincing evidence. And I'd ask the commission to find them in violation as alleged. Thank you.
Ms. Chow and Mr. Muir, would 2.5 minutes each be enough for you for closing?
Yes, that would be.
Enough for you, Chinny?
Yes, that's enough.
I might want to go a little bit beyond that.
Okay, how many minutes do you need?
Just give me the same 5.
Well,
It'll be shorter than that, but I don't want to run over.
Okay, try not to go more than 4. Ms. Chow,
Okay.
Why don't you go ahead and do your closing?
So in closing, I want to say that we are a 501c4. That's how we've operated. You can Google neighborhood, Overland Park neighbors advocating against the development at the Arboretum. We've met multiple times at my home. I've opened up my home. I've bought food. From all my neighbors so that we can have conversations about the issues that are near and dear to our hearts and our quality of life. All I can say is, at the end of the day, we are just a bunch of neighbors. We're not a political action committee. We're not raising tens and thousands of dollars and endorsing candidates. At the end of the day, we are talking about issues that affect us. That is the reason why, I've asked that, Gail, who is a member of our organization, come and share with you her story. And we have plenty more. But I will leave it at that and give my time to James.
Okay. Mr. Muir, why don't you take 4 minutes? The reason I'm giving you each half of what Mr. Berry had is because there's 2 of you, and he has to argue against 2 of you, but Ms. Chow has given you a minute or 2, so please proceed with your closing.
Okay, thank you. I understand what you're doing there. So I think the focus is not on our 501c4 status. It's the focus is on that question is a major. Now, I would like to say that if you look up the definition of major as an adjective, it's greater in size, extent, or importance. So what is being said here is the endorsement of Dr. Farasati was greater in size, extent, or importance of what else we were doing. Now, people use the word advocate, and I think that's very important. We did not advocate for a candidate. We advocate for issues. We did endorse a candidate, and we had that little discussion that, no, I don't see endorsement and advocate as the same thing. They're separate. If you look at Exhibit 1, it says what we advocate for: fiscal responsibility, responsible development, safety in neighborhoods. So when we start looking at issues, and unfortunately, if we raised thousands and thousands of dollars, we'd put out a lot more mailers. We don't. Actually, once the request came through from the Kansas Ethics Commission, we stopped raising any money. We stopped activity when that took place, going through until there's a determination by the Ethics Committee. If the Ethics Committee determines we're a PAC, we will do the filing that we needed to. We will file those reports and we will shut it down. That's where it would go. If you determine we're not a PAC, we will continue with being a social welfare organization, probably be a little bit more precise in some of the stuff we're going through. But our issues are Southern Overland Park issues. It's the Arboretum and what's taking there with their multi-million-dollar development. It's chip seal on the roads. It is the Highway 69 toll issue. These are the issues that we talk to our community members about. It has to do with informing our people in our community that if they go up to the Blue Hawk area and they shop at the grocery store there, they're paying an extra 1% sales tax, because the city of Overland Park has given the Price brothers about $300 million in tax incentives. This is the information that we're getting out for people. And the ones that listen to us that are on the city council, we will talk to them. And we've talked to some of the council members. Some of them have just politely said, sorry, we don't agree with you. This is what we think. And it's fine. Our focus is then letting people know that you have to start looking at the candidates and go into the elections. So I can tell you, Rick Collins got defeated by Scott Hamlin, and it was basically because the people in Southern Overland Park started understanding what was going on. Jeff Long defeated Chris Newland. That was taking out 2 of the Southern Overland Park city council members. Those 2 are more important to us than Dr. Farasati. But the council members that are in there now are the ones that go, yes, we understand the issues that you advocate. And with this mailer, maybe 15% of our time. And yes, it could be a bit of money because like I said, as soon as we got the notice from the Ethics Commission, we stopped any fundraising, which means we stopped everything, including the website, until a determination's made. We froze what was going on until you make your decision. And if you say we're a PAC, we'll do our filings.
Okay.
But we were waiting for your decision on which way to go.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Berry, would you care to finish up in 1 minute? You're muted. We can't hear you.
Yes, I'd like to briefly rebut in the argument. I would respectfully submit the commission consider following the money that we are aware has been spent, and it's primarily on a website and 2 mailers. There was not any discussion of spending money elsewhere other than issues of being talked about. And if they spent their money on issues of express advocacy, both on their website and one of the mailers, to me, that suggests that it's a major purpose. And in regard to Mr. Muir's distinction between endorsement and express advocacy, they clearly did expressly advocate for Dr. Farasati, because under 41 KSA 254143 H1, quote, vote for the Secretary of State, end quote, is an example of express advocacy that is in the statute, but it's not limited to these specific ones. And they clearly had, quote, vote for Dr. Farasati, or quote, vote for Farasati. So it is express advocacy based upon the definition in statute. I have nothing further.
Okay. Are there questions of the closers by the commission? Okay, the question arises before the commission as to whether or not this is a PAC. Is there discussion, or is there a motion?
This is our time to weigh in on our take on the situation.
It is.
Okay. I would first start by saying that I am very impressed with the passion exhibited by these private citizens in a cause very near, literally, and dear to them. I would encourage them, and I do believe that the evidence indicates that they are a PAC, that they simply file as a PAC, not dissolve, but go full steam ahead. I understand their argument, but I believe the statute and the law is against them. So what I would surmise here is that they were very passionate about this issue. They got involved. And the problem was where they stepped over the line was they found a champion, and that champion was Dr. Farasati. And they, whether you endorse or you advocate for that person was running for public office. And to keep the playing field level, a PAC needs to act like a PAC. So that's how I would, but I would encourage them to register as a PAC and go forth with advocating their cause. I applaud the passion.
Are you suggesting that the commission give them, say, 30 days to file their reports and hold in advance any penalty as long as they get that report filed on time?
I would support that.
Are there other comments or questions from the commission? Discussion from the commission.
Yeah, I will chime in and echo what Kyle said. The Campaign Finance Act establishes standards of conduct for transparency and accountability. And I also commend the commitment to the community It's just at a certain threshold, there is a standard of conduct that we expect participants in community engagement to follow. I find the words on Exhibit 1, vote Dr. Faris Farsadi for mayor on August 3rd, very compelling as a statement of express advocacy. The language, the plain language of KSA 254143 K1 says a major purpose. It does not say the major purpose. I find also the 6 factors enumerated in a Kansas Administrative Reg 1921 3. I find those compelling as well in indicating intent to expressly advocate on behalf of a particular candidate. So I think that I would also believe there to be evidence of a political committee by definition. But I would just want to encourage the neighborhood community group to work within the Campaign Finance Act to be compliant. But I want to make very clear that I commend the commitment and the engagement.
Is there further discussion from the commission?
If Kyle doesn't want to make the motion, I would move that we table this matter for 30 days to allow the Fresh Vision OP to file the necessary documents to be in compliance as a PAC. I would echo the comments of our chair and Kyle that their mission is laudable. They're doing a great job. It's just unfortunate that there may be some misunderstanding of the requirements that they have to meet.
Judge, I think we have to make a finding that they are a PAC. Would you make as part of your motion a finding that they are a PAC and give them, and then table it for 30 days to give them a chance to file the documents?
I would so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
I would second that.
Oh, sorry, Kyle.
Is there further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. This concludes the hearing in this matter. We found that you are a PAC, and we've tabled the matter of issuing a fine for 30 days to give you a chance to file the necessary paperwork. I assume that if that is done, that there will be no further action. The hearing on this matter is now closed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Could I ask
you.
one thing, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
For us to make sure we do all the correct filings, who would be the point person that we should be talking to?
Mark, I would expect that you should handle this directly with Ms. Dow and Mr. Muir to just make sure that we are achieving everything that you deem necessary. But I will also just defer to your authority if there are other members of your staff that need to be in that communication.
Who asked that question?
Mr. Muir.
Okay, all right.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
I thank all the members of the commission.
We
Thank
appreciate your participation. Thank you. You are free to depart the call.
Okay. Just gotta
And
make sure.
Mr. Skoglund will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Give me a minute to return to the agenda. So, Mark, do I understand that we need to continue complaint 710 with respect to John Gunter until next month's meeting?
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Okay, and do we need a motion for
Yes.
that? Okay. Do I have that motion?
I would so move.
Thank you, John. Do I have a
Ken, a
second?
second.
Thank you, Ken. All in favor of approving the motion to continue complaint 710 with respect to Mr. John Gunter until next month's meeting on April 27th, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The motion passes. The remaining item on the agenda is executive session, and at the before our meeting, Mark thought we could get this done in 5 minutes. Mark, do you want to give ourselves some more time, or do you believe that's necessary?
I think 5 minutes is sufficient.
Okay. Commissioner Krull, can you do us the honors?
I would, but I would like to say before I do that I want to thank the executive director and our attorney, Brett Berry, and all who worked so hard on putting that last matter together. And John for being the hearing officer. That we did the people's business well, and I think the result was the right one.
I agree, Kyle. Thank you.
And we're going until what time? Did you say 5 minutes?
I have 2:50. Let's say 2:56.
Okay. For good cause pursuant to KAR 19-6-2, I move to recess open meeting until 3:56 p.m. for executive session with staff present to discuss matters related to complaints, audits, or investigations made confidential pursuant to KSA 25-4161 and 25-4165. Just with the commission's which is with client privilege as provided for in KSA 75-4319 subparagraphs B and 2.
Thank you, Kyle. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ken. Any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the motion to enter into executive session signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed say nay. The motion passes. Let us know when you're ready, Mark.